Moolala is brought to you by the nonprofit credit counseling agency Credit Canada. The dry cleaners. That is the example that used to really get to me. Despite the fact that my dress shirt is about the same amount of fabric as a woman's blouse, I paid less. Men pay less for lots of different things, and women, on average, not only pay more for stuff, but they get paid less than men do, rather. And these are just a couple of things that chartered professional accountant Janine Rogan explores in her new book. It is called The Pink Tax: Dismantling a Financial System Designed to Keep Women Broke. Janine joins us now from Calgary, Alberta. Hello there.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your book. It's a big milestone. And I would summarize by saying it is a much more in-depth look than I alluded to with my overly simplistic example. But first, describe for us what you mean by the phrase the pink tax.
Absolutely. So the pink tax actually started out of some research done around gendered products. So you're absolutely right. Things like the dry cleaner, things like razors, shampoo, we see examples in kids' helmets, kids' clothing. Really, it extends kind of throughout all of the spending we do in our society. But what I really wanted to do with this book is look at kind of the impact of all of the systemic decisions we've made as a society that impact women and their ability to earn money as well as build wealth. So there's just so many examples of how there is inequality in our financial system and how women end up paying more for all of these things.
You structured your book in a very clear way, which illustrates a call to action in each part. The first is around demanding financial equality, and you argue for a new lens. We need to look at this through a new lens. What's the new lens?
I mean, I think when we look at how we've always had our financial system set up, it is taboo to talk about money. Millennial and younger generations just need to work hard, and then they'll be rewarded and be able to buy a house. And women basically just need to, I guess, accept the jobs that they have and be grateful for them. So, there's a lot of new ways we can start to look at this, but I think we need to start looking at, again, how our system is set up to disadvantage women, as well as what we've done in the past, let's say for different generations, may not be what we need to actually do going forward.
Payment isn't biased, you say, but the payer is. So I'm assuming you're talking about employers here. What is a way for employers to check their biases at the door, to tweak or transform their compensation frameworks?
That is a really great question. And there's a lot of things that employers can do. I think number one is pay transparency. So when we look at even different countries around the world, we can see that there are pay transparency laws around companies being required to actually publish their pay gap data. And then they actually need to do something with that data. So once they have the data that says, okay, women are being paid less, or this individual is identified as being paid less than their male counterpart, what are they actually going to do about it? And we've seen some tech companies actually try to address the wage gap. And what they've found is they actually need to be addressing it every 6 months to make sure that everyone is on that equal playing field.
Every 6 months? Are you telling me that it gets out of whack if left untended? We can't just fix the root cause and have it take care of itself?
Absolutely, because people are getting promoted and people are getting bonuses and people are being hired, and there's bias in hiring practices, there's bias in bonus payments. So we really have to, until this becomes normal, we have to take a critical lens on it and look at it often, because again, fixing it once isn't gonna do it for the long term.
Your first part around financial equality really sets, I think, a compelling and different context for part two, which is maybe a little more traditional personal finance kind of how to, and that's around building wealth for self-care. Why was this important in a conversation about the pink tax?
I think often women aren't as involved in their finances, and there's a lot of different reasons for this. I think Predominantly, it goes back to, as a society, how we've told women not to talk about money, how little girls versus little boys are raised. They've actually found a pay gap in allowances. We get to this point as women where we are working a full-time job and maybe we're spending more than we should, or we don't know how to save, or we don't know how to invest. And this causes, for anybody, a lot of stress. And we know that money is a number one stressor for a lot of different people. And so really where I went with the notion of self-care is, don't get me wrong, I love a bubble bath, I love a glass of wine, but at the end of the day, doing the hard thing of getting involved with your finances and getting yourself set up so that you aren't stressed every day about money, or you aren't worried about opening the bill that comes in the mail or in your email, I think is such a strong way of advocating for yourself and creating self-care to ultimately lower your stress, maybe your financial anxiety, as well as financial shame.
Including the challenge, this section includes the challenge of ask for more. What is the single biggest piece of advice you have on that topic for people?
I think when we look at that chapter and we look at asking for more, it really does come down to looking at your income and how you can increase that. I mean, it's a personal finance debate as to whether you should increase your income or cut your expenses. And I think there can be room for both. But at the end of the day, women on average are paid, white women on average, are paid just 84 cents on the dollar. And when we look at women of color, it's 62 cents. So we really do need to ask for more when it comes from the jobs we work, but also when it comes to our partners and our financial advisors, continue to ask those questions and have those conversations so that we can create financial equality.
Part 3 is around supporting new mothers. And, I am a parent, but I'm in a 2-dad parent relationship. So I have no context for what it is to be a new mother, but I do have a great deal of context about what it's like to be the primary caregiver, just with the privilege that comes alongside being a white male. What perspective do you think that we need to understand more universally about the challenges new moms in particular face?
I think number one being, when you give birth to a child, that is like a medical procedure, or sometimes it's a large abdominal surgery if you have a cesarean. And so when I look at how we, treat mothers that have given birth around parental leave and kind of maxing out that benefit at, I think it's $2,000 or just over $2,000 a month, that really isn't for a lot of people anywhere close to their monthly salary, are now bombarded with all of these extra costs of having a little one, as well as trying to recover. So what I would love to see is an increase in that, more aligned with what people make, so that, women aren't stressed out about money in this time when they've just gone through this major life change. And I mean, that extends to all parents, but I think from a medical perspective, it does really impact women.
No matter how a child comes into your life, if you don't give birth physically, the hormonal changes they're just different. We'll not say more or less, but they're certainly different if you carried the child and are feeding and all those sorts of things. I think that's accurate and fair. The fourth part, vote for your daughters. I have a child. I really felt this was the call to action for the rest of us, that it is not just something, a mantle that women need to carry alone. What's your message to guys out there?
Well, we absolutely need men to help with the advocacy of equality. And so I think why I titled this section, Vote for Your Daughters, is sometimes I find men don't know how to help, or they're not sure what to say, or they're worried about saying the wrong things. And so putting it in the context of someone that they love and care for, so whether that's a daughter, a mother, a sister, putting that lens on it, I think then maybe allows them to kind of have a purpose when it comes to some of this advocacy work, because you wouldn't want that for your daughter. You wouldn't want your daughter to be passed over for a promotion or to be paid less. You probably think that your daughter is amazing and fantastic and should be equal to all of the men she's working with. And so that is really kind of what I wanted the call to action to be for that, and to really have men empathize with what is going on for women when it comes to inequality.
You opened this book with a quote from Gloria Steinem. The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. What of all the things that you covered and uncovered in this book raises your ire the most?
Well, I mean, that's a long list. You should have heard my husband while I was writing this book. There would just be cursing from upstairs about all
I
the
just
studies.
found the data on this. It's infuriating. Yes, dear.
Yes. I mean, I really think the wealth gap is the one that gets me the most because there is such a large gap. And ultimately, when I think of wealth, that is what translates into power. And what can we do with power? We can choose what kind of companies we want to invest in, how we want to make an impact. We can, become political leaders and advocate for policy change. We can create scholarships for those that are, less fortunate or less privileged than us. And I just think that, women not having equality when it comes to money and ultimately power is doing a disservice to the globe. So I would say that's probably the thing that makes me the most mad.
I want to finish on an optimistic note, or at least we'll try to. And that is the second last thing you write about before acknowledgements is the future is equal. Looking ahead to the future, and you choose your time horizon, if it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I don't know. What are some things that you would put out to the universe as having changed in that time?
I mean, if it was up to me,
it's up to you. It's up to you.
Yeah, I think number one is all companies have to publish their wage gap data and do something about it. Otherwise, we fine them. They do this in Iceland. So I think that's number one. I think our minimum wage needs to be indexed a lot higher to inflation and what it would be if it had kind of kept up, so that we can start to push stagnating wages up. And then I would say probably maternity leave and parental leave benefits are actually kind of a living wage for parents while they're on leave. And then in conjunction with that, all daycare is free. So just a short few couple things.
I mean, we'll do that by tomorrow. What about after that? I'm kidding. It is a tall order. It is an ambitious agenda. And I think it's so fantastic that you have laid it out so clearly and in such a compelling way. Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
Janine Rogan is the author of The Pink Tax: Dismantling a Financial System Designed to Keep Women Broke.